Oh, here we go. Being live streamed. Perfect. Welcome everyone to Office Hours. This is Dave Meyer and my co-host John Arms. You'll probably notice he has quite the baritone rolling today.
I do.
It's going to be super exciting to have John with us. Welcome in his everyone to Office Hours. Oh, and I thought I muted Dave myself. Meyer. I didn't mute. There we go. So hi, and Andy, welcome to the live stream, and thank you so much for joining us today. How are you guys?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me. I'm not used to not having the lowest voice in the room, though.
Great. So everybody listening and watching and checking in later, I've got COVID. I'm isolating in northern Minnesota. There's nobody within many miles of me right now that I'm aware of. So I've got this great voice, and so I'm probably not going to be my normal perky self. But you know, you just gotta live, guys, right? You got to keep on going.
That's right. We got to keep working.
Got to keep going.
I feel for you. I hope you get better from that soon. My family just went through a round of that. I don't envy you. Get well soon.
You were talking about the baritone voice, and I think if it lasts like 5 or 6 days, I got about 5 or 6 days to book a whole lot of voiceover work with this voice.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, I'm like, is it more James Earl Jones or Sean Connery? What am I rocking here?
Ooh, I'm feeling the Connery. So you can throw a little inside of there. Just say, yes, welcome to the Rock.
Welcome.
Tom Bernard's got nothing on you.
Oh, Bernard, that guy. I used to do so much radio with Tom Bernard. That guy, he's a great guy. But man, does he have golden pipes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
My gosh. Yeah.
Well, let's get started. And I want to do a quick intro of Andy, because if you don't know Andy Tellijohn and Upsize magazine, you really need to check everything out. I'm going to post some links in our chat for our attendees, and we're also being broadcast across over to YouTube as well, so I'll post things there too. But if you don't know Upsize magazine, it is the magazine for entrepreneurs. And what better way to connect and to help entrepreneurs grow than to think about some new ways to get the word out. And so, Andy, I'd love to have your thoughts and input on, kind of what we're seeing or what you're seeing in the market, what entrepreneurs are doing, and also the benefits of publicity, because there's so much out there that a lot of people don't even think about. And I know that you're a direct conduit to lots and lots of amazing people. So, gosh, thanks for joining, and tell us your story. How's things going?
Sure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words. We will be publishing, the next issue we publish will be the 20th anniversary of Upsize being founded.
Right. Good for you.
Well, it's I've been involved in the business side of the magazine a very short time. I have to give the credit to founders Wes Bergstrom, Beth Ewan, and Jonathan Hankin for chaperoning it through the first 18 years or so. But it's a publication that aims to help growing companies grow their business. We try to put folks in touch with the decision makers and the service providers that can help them do so, and provide a little content that maybe allows them to not have to reinvent the wheel every time they've got a problem. Learn from other folks' mistakes and challenges rather than having to go through them yourself.
It's hard, isn't it? I mean, this is one of those things, Andy, when you and I met not too long ago, with Upsize, I'm like, what's that movie where he said, you had me at hello? Like that simple word, like Upsize. I'm like, oh my God, just the whole idea of, I always say every business is trying to move up and to the right.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think about those growth charts, that's where we're going. And Upsize is, it's hard to do, isn't it, Andy? Because if you want to find out about the Fortune 500 or Fortune 2000, it's a piece of cake. You've got the Wall Street Journal, you got Forbes, you got Harvard Business Review. But if you want to get to the other 50% of our economy and 90% of our workforce, it scatters fast, doesn't it?
It does. Those numbers, I love those numbers because it means there's a niche for us, big niche for us. But Yeah, I mean, there's some great business publications in the Twin Cities market. The Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal, Twin Cities Business. They both do great things. The Stribs business section has some great writers in it. But I would say in a lot of cases, and maybe most cases, those publications are looking at the bigger companies, and
for sure.
And for the small business owner, and you're right, the percentages are huge in terms of the small business community in this town. It's those companies are going under the radar, and there are a lot of great companies in town here. So the publications, I'm grateful that they leave a lot of meat on the bone for us, a lot of good stories to tell, and a lot of good information to provide that folks really don't find elsewhere, I think.
And there's a lot to that. In order to upsize, to move up and to the right, it's a different deal. Honest to God. I mean, I was at Andy, did you get to the Generator Conference on education upsizing? I'm now using the title of your publication like as a verb now.
Feel free. Every bit help. There is, what do they say? There's no such thing as bad publicity. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but we'll take what we can get.
But the event was a month or two ago. They held it over at the soccer stadium here in the Twin Cities, and you had greater MSP there. You had investors there, you had banks there, you had all these startups, cohorts. And I'm like, the amount of energy in this room that can change lives and all that kind of stuff. And everybody was like, man, this is tough. This is hard to get this going. It's a lot easier to hey, come on in here and let's talk about Apple. Piece of cake, no problem. This stuff is harder. So good on you for creating a forum for that. And I'm curious as to where it's going with you guys.
Yep. Well, the group that I'm involved with, there's 3 of us. We acquired the magazine about a year and a half ago. We've got a magazine, Upsize Minnesota. That is the publication that's about 20 years old. We have started recording and we'll start posting soon a podcast and some other multimedia products that that's been something that has been a glaring absence, I think, on our part. It's you just can't be a full scale media company in the 21st century and not meet people where they're at in places like podcasts and other online content. So that's something we're cognizant of. It's a very small group of us that are trying to do this. So, much like with those other companies, we're limited by the person power a little bit, but we know we need to get out there more and meet folks in other places and find some other ways to get the word out on these issues as well. So that's there's a lot to come, but we're doing all right. We're getting there. Acquiring the magazine during at the very beginning of a pandemic, under the circumstances we did. Unfortunately, our founding publisher Wes Bergerstrom passed away suddenly, just as the pandemic was kicking off. So that left us. There's 3 of us, and I think we're all pretty well versed at the pieces of this that we're familiar with. But it left us with a bit of a learning curve on the business side of things. So you and everybody else, but Dave and I are helping. You're broadcasting on YouTube right now live. We record it. It all goes out to YouTube. It's a live stream. It's a recorded stream. So you're well on your way. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very exciting. The circumstances weren't what we were looking for, but I've always been intrigued by the idea of where Upsize could go and what it could be. And I appreciate your helping us get the word out.
Well, it's important when we talk about the fractional community. You talked about liking numbers. Excuse me, a little bit of a COVID cough, but there's nobody in the room. Voyager is 215 members as of today, all fractional executives. everybody's got somewhere between 3 and 5 customers, and they're all small businesses. They might be a $20 million business. They might be a $1 million business. They might be a $50 million business. And so when you think about and that's great, right? That creates a resource and an economy. It's probably 70, $80 million of economic activity that we represent as a community. It's no small thing, but what's interesting about it is it's so different now. You know, the small businesses are being energized by fractional pros in ways they couldn't have done before the pandemic. You couldn't go get Dave. I know you're not looking for a new job, but you couldn't go get Dave Meyer on your staff, you know, for, you know, 5-10 grand a month, and pluck them and put them on your staff. You know, the good seasoned executives are out there fractionally now, and now you can, and it's changing the nature of how, well, I'm going to use it again on how people upsize.
I like it. Yeah, no, I mean, the introduction that you and I had, John, was a couple of months ago when Upsize did a story on the fractional business community. And I mean, I knew it was growing. I didn't realize at the time when I went into it, the extent to which it was growing, but I was very intrigued by, I guess, you know, the two things were, you know, the ability to tap into experienced resources at a lesser cost than bringing someone on staff full time, and then also the experience level that a lot of these folks have that they're bringing to the table. That strikes me as potentially hugely valuable service to bring to the small business community, when a lot of the small businesses out there are founded by folks who, you know, don't come from a business background. They're good at what they know, but the companies that make it are you know, the ones that know what they don't know and find somebody who can help them fill those gaps. Right.
Yeah, I'm starting to call it our collection of owls. You know, hundreds of people with all this wisdom. It's a huge, what is it? What is a flock of geese, whatever it is for owls, you know, but we got this collection of owls that's now in, and it's not just through Voyager, but they're deploying into the workforce and making big change. Andy, since you think and concentrate and interview so much on small business, are there things that you think, you know, we should all talk about or be thinking about right now, what you've seen in the last couple of years with small businesses, with businesses that are trying to upsize?
Well, I mean, to keep on the fractional side of things, I'm, you know, we've been going through and starting to recover from the pandemic here these, you know, hopefully, you know, last year or whatever. And now I was intrigued by one of your posts on LinkedIn about the financial, you know, course that the community we're taking right now. Are we being fed a line on the recession and inflation? And that post coincided with an article in our latest issue of Upsize, Be Prepared for a Recession. So I'm curious to hear a little more of your thoughts on that, and you know, and whether we are headed into a recession or not, and you know, whether or not you think that we were a little off base in running that story.
No, you weren't off base, and you weren't on base, and neither was I. You know, and that's it's so interesting. As I was saying for listeners off air, we were talking a little bit about other, you know, communities and places. And I was at a wonderful event with the Exit Planning Institute this week. A whole bunch of really smart people that, again, they focus on upsizing businesses. And I kind of brought it up. I'm like I was saying in the article, Andy, like, are we being sold a recession? Like, why are they working so hard? The job numbers are great. The revenue is really good in some areas. I know supply chain has issues. I know gas is up, but relative. And but my point in the article was, it felt like they're trying to force a recession on us. Now, the thing I learned, and we talked about at this meeting this week, that I thought was very interesting, is like the normal indicators are there for recession, right? The normal indicators, and we talked about that in this meeting this week a lot. But the conclusion was, but the normal indicators don't freaking work anymore. It's a whole new world. So you can't be wrong on it, because no one really knows. There's too much that has changed. You can look at the normal indicators and call them guideposts, but whether it's interest rates, you know, how much how money's expensive, but there's too much different now.
Well, there's
for
too
us
much
to look at
activity,
those. Yeah.
right? Yeah,
What's that, Dave?
there's too much activity, and I think the thing that everyone needs to keep with a grain of salt is, out of the past 20 years, the media has correctly predicted, has predicted 20 out of the past 2 recessions, right? So, every year in the recession.
That's awesome.
So,
it took my foggy brain to catch up to you on that, Dave.
You got to watch out for what people are telling you to expect, and the fact that clicks are the only way that a lot of these media groups are making any money, by trying to sell eyeballs and getting attention. So yes, there's an inverted yield curve. Yes, the interest rates are going up. Yes, the Fed is trying to slow things down and to tap the brakes on the things that are just tough to get a hold of. But there's extenuating reasons behind all of that. Like, it's tough to get things right now because of supply chain, because of disruptions, because of the pandemic, and we're recovering from that. So yeah, there's a lot of it in there, but also there's so many new channels, like you had alluded to, John. And I think, yes, it is going to be a little bit more challenging, but maybe it's just Dave being permanently optimistic. But I think there's so many more ways that we can keep doing business.
Yeah.
Let's be real. If this pandemic would have happened 10 years ago,
Yeah.
we would have been entirely screwed. Before all of the video conferencing and all that stuff came out, it was a blip. It was, we all had to massively refigure how we're going to work, but we did it, right? So
and the challenges weren't that hard for us, were they?
Not terrible.
Not terrible. We all have internet connection. What was it 10 years ago? It might have still been dial-up. I'm not sure.
I think it was. Well, and 10 is probably too small. I mean, but 10 years ago there was still internet, but a tenth of the speed of what it is now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's what I, one of the I guess benefits of so we were in mothballs for the year of the biggest year of the pandemic, and that's, I mean, a bit of a lost opportunity to get your name out and provide content and try and help folks through this. But we restarted, I think, in February, March, April of 2021. And one of the things that really jumped out at me was, there's a lot of companies that struggled through the pandemic, but there were a ton of companies who were having their, close to or their best years ever, if they could, just be a little flexible and innovate and throw a couple ideas at the wall on, switching a product line up and, making, switching from, making sports uniforms to making masks or something along those lines. I mean, the examples aren't jumping into my head just off the top of my,
I got a couple for you.
So, I mean, have a little creativity and use what we do have, and you can, find a way to plow through. And
that's right. Some of the old rules that do apply, these aren't financial rules. These are bigger than that. Whatever the next stage up of philosophical rules and approaches are, necessity is the mother of invention. And when you are faced with a change or a shortage or something, you get busy, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna invent in a way. And I was earlier this year, I was supporting a company with marketing, trying to get themselves going, chromatic 3D printing, great people, great vision. And they're going into the supply chain saying, hey, you don't have to go get it from across the ocean on a ship. You can get a 3D printer and you can make that valve, or you can make that gap, and that's invention, right? Now it's different, but the necessity, like, I'm not getting any parts for my car anytime soon. I better get a 3D printer and print it. That's one example of so many where necessity has become the mother of invention. And isn't that what advances our economy and our society?
Yeah, I think
think about it.
Yeah, I think that, I have talked to a number of business owners in the time since the worst of the pandemic seems to have passed, who, have made some of these innovations or gotten into new areas of business where, those new areas of business remain among the higher revenue portions of their business going forward. So, I mean, you get a little creative, and it's amazing what you can do, when things get better. And I mean,
right.
There's some really impressive companies out there.
What was it? A lot of refrigerator makers in World War II started making airplanes because they had the metal and they had they're like, okay, the world needs this now. I'm going to pivot.
Yep.
Now, we didn't come into this with drawings on how to make a whatever those kind of airplane P-50. I have a good friend that loves that stuff, but it is true. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the first time. I think that's the first time I've made the connection through you, John. Is World War II forced so many huge changes.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the way to look at where we're at right now, because I don't think there's ever been a bigger time where the entire world has had to pivot and become innovative in order to survive. So maybe on the rose-colored glasses side, we've all just had the most transformative, biggest forced pressure cooker to help us come up with new ideas and to be incredibly creative. And so maybe there's going to be a massive explosion in innovation over the next few years as we all figure out, okay, the lessons from that.
Across the whole economy, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I would agree with that. I suspect that's we're probably going to hear more and more of that, and I'm looking forward to being able to write about some of the good stuff that comes out of this instead of oh crap, what's next? So
well, we tend to talk about that. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Let me tap us into our group. And Tom just let me know that chat was disabled for him again this time, so I apologize, guys. They've been focusing in on the Q&A side. Tom says that a group of owls is a parliament. So you know that. But also I want to give our attendees a chance to chat as well. So I'm going to turn on talking for everyone now. No pressure. You don't have to share if you want, but if you did want to ask Tom or any of us a question, this is the time. And we're in open chat now. So let's go.
We have a parliament of owls here.
We have a parliament.
Brian's raising his hand. Brian,
go for it, Brian. How are you?
Got a little audio glitch.
Good. How's everybody doing?
We are. Hey,
Brian.
Great, Brian.
Hey, Andy. Long time. I remember we dealt together back in the Nash Finch days when I was over there.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that that we had crossed paths at that time.
Well, we both have names that are fairly unique, so we would know.
We do. Absolutely, we do. It stands out for sure.
Hey, here's a question I've got for you, just to get your perspective. So I work with several nonprofit clients that partner a great deal with businesses. So I mean, they're really engaged with business partners, but many times I find it difficult to get publications to pay any attention because, oh, you're a nonprofit. That we don't care about that. But I'm trying to get at the business partnerships and the good that businesses are doing with employee engagement and other things like that. So any thoughts or ideas on how you would approach that, or how we should approach that with people like you?
Well, I can. I mean, I know this isn't about me per se, but I can tell you a couple things that I look for, and I as far as I'm concerned, nonprofits are small businesses and are. I mean, subject to our magazine if they fit a given topic. At any point, we had a nonprofit exec on our cover an issue ago. What I'm looking for is something a little different. For one thing, I'm not going to run the same story that I come out every other month, and the Star Tribune comes out every day. The Business Journal comes out every week. So I'm not going to run the same story that they just ran in their latest issue. I can't. I mean, I don't want to be the third or fourth person telling that story. So it might help to reach out to some of these publications individually and see if there's something that might be a fit for them content wise that isn't a fit for the Business Journal or the Star Tribune. That they might be able to get an exclusive bite on. The other thing, I mean, that's one of the things that we look for. We're a how-to magazine. So, if company A sends me a press release that says, hey, we're a great company, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this, that's not really a story for Upsize. What would be a story for Upsize is if company A came up with a great way of solving a specific problem. How do you find the right people to sit on your board of advisors? How do you take a company that's maybe not bankable and help them find financing that can get them to the next level? We specifically want some kind of a how-to angle in every story that we run. Not every publication is going to be looking for that, but that publication is probably going to be looking for some sort of, exclusive story that's, that fits whatever niche they may have. So I'd say do a little bit of homework on the publications you might be targeting, maybe target some specific publications instead of sending out a general press release. Those would be a couple things. And then one of the things that just drives me insane is just put a name and a phone number on the press release so that if that's how you want to reach out, you can reach out to me by phone or email as well. But if you're going to send a press release, put some contact information on there. I've come across, and it's more and more common these days, where press release might have some interesting information, and it's something that I want to follow up on. It might not be, the press release might not be exactly what I'm looking for the magazine, but I might want to, query about something else. And then I have to go and dig for, 15, 20 minutes trying to find somebody specifically I can contact. So I don't know. I hope that answered your question. If not, then, help me out.
Well, that's a PR 101 thing right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Put your contact information on the press release, just like ads and landing pages. Make sure you have a damn call to action, people.
Yeah, well, the good news is I do put contact information on my press releases.
That wasn't aimed specifically at you.
No, I know. Good advice in general, though, because a lot of people, I know what you're saying. And no, that's good. Those are good comments. Those are the things I try to do. I haven't had good luck with some of the bigger publications, meaning, the business focused ones. But, I understand some of them don't, that's not a thing. They don't want to cover nonprofits. So I get that. But when they're tying it to when I'm tying it to a business story, I think there are applicable angles that could be real interesting to readers of those magazines and publications. So great, thanks for the tips, and hope we can connect again, Andy.
Absolutely, and I think just a personal opinion, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that are smaller or larger that are doing great work out there, and they should be covered as well. I can't I don't understand.
Is there a vibe? Is there a vibe when you say nonprofit? Is it because it carries some baggage with it? So the minute you hear nonprofit as a publication, you go, I'm just not doing a nonprofit story. Is there some baggage that comes with just because it's a nonprofit? Is that anybody? All of you owls, anybody can pick that one up if you think so.
I certainly. I mean, it's not something that comes into my mind when I hear nonprofit. But I don't know. I mean, I guess.
Sure.
Right.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that where it's literally like, we're not interested. It's a nonprofit story, and I'm like, okay, but it involves company A, B, and C, which you write on regularly. So like,
but they've labeled it nonprofit in their head, which means it doesn't go any farther.
Right. Well, and for me, like when I'm working with an organization that might be a nonprofit, it really depends on the personality of the organization as to more who I'm looking for. Sometimes it feels like, and this is maybe a hangover from old times, but sometimes nonprofits can kind of treat themselves as non-revenue, right? Where they think that everything needs to be towards the organization's goals, which is fine, but to the detriment of everything else. It's like, well, we can't afford marketing because we don't have any revenue. Well, if you're running your organization like an organization, you should have enough revenue to be able to support the needs of that organization, right? So you need to have enough money to do advertising, to do marketing, to do publicity. And if you're not doing that, you don't really have an organization. You have a hobby that has a good intent.
Right.
So-
No, you're right. You're right. And I think part of the thing is like the two I work with both have social enterprise arms.
Mhm.
So they're very focused on revenue generation to support the mission. And they do those right kind of things with marketing and PR. And obviously I'm working with them, so they're interested enough to be doing that. So you're absolutely right. There are a lot of older school or nonprofits that want to do good work, but don't necessarily want to invest in that kind of stuff. And that's a red flag.
Yeah, I would say what that tells me is, John, a lot of those nonprofits need to get in touch with you about maybe a CMO, fractional CMO
Right.
Consultation.
Right. Me and the other owls in the Voyager community. Yeah, for sure.
A lot easier to get the word out. And I would think easier to fundraise if more people know that you exist and what you do. So
Right. And the good thing that goes into most nonprofits is they come pre-packaged with an amazing story. Now, you're not doing what you do because you want to just make more money. You're doing what you do because you're impacting a community in some way. So that always is easy to get coverage on, or easier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely true.
Tom, you might have a question. I see that you came off of audio here.
Just a comment. I would agree. I think a lot of times nonprofits are discounted. I think there is some baggage there because, in some cases, nonprofits maybe aren't run like businesses. And so I think people outside that community sometimes do discount them. Way back earlier in my career, I was a vice president of a nonprofit. And when I was applying for another position, they tended to discount that. They said, well, it was a nonprofit. And my counter to that was, I said, well, I would argue that it's more difficult being a leader in a nonprofit than it is in for-profit, because nobody has to be there. They're there because they want to.
Yeah. Right.
I was sort of thinking, similarly, in that there are a lot of small businesses that at times aren't successfully run as businesses either. I mean, it's that's like I said earlier. I mean, the ones that are, entrepreneurs have brains that work in different ways, and they can be really good at what they are really good at. But the ones that survive and do really well are the ones that know what they're not so good at, and they go out and get help. And whether it's a fractional CFO, CEO, C whatever, or they bring in staff or hire a consultant or whatever. I mean, they find people to help them out with what they don't know. And I mean, I would think that the same should apply to nonprofits. If you're struggling at something, if you're having a hard time getting the word out, if you're having a hard time with whatever, then you've got a gap somewhere, and you need to go and find somebody who can help you fill that role.
And Andy, what's the readership of Upsize?
We've got a subscriber base of about 6,500, and then we just introduced a new website about 6 months ago. So our traffic to we've got a virtual version of the magazine that's identical, but we're just starting to push people in that direction a little bit. Our website was a pain point before that, so we spent a good chunk of time trying to keep people off of that. But
sure.
So
that's not bad though, Andy. To go from mothballs a year and a half ago to 6,500, that's pretty good growth.
Yeah, a lot of that was so the subscriber list was in relatively good shape when we bought it. There were a number of businesses that went out of business or sold during the pandemic. So we did have some attrition, but it started to pick up a little bit here, and folks are signing on. If you're
good,
yeah, no, it's we're starting to see some positive movement in that front. So, but the subscriber base is 6,500.
Nice,
excellent,
very good. Sorry, I'm losing it, guys. I got to get Vicks back on my throat. I got to go for that community stuff.
Hey, let me jump in and do a Johnism. we're talking about the community, and Tom, you were talking about, some of the things that the business owner or the nonprofit owner especially might be suffering from, like, if new entrepreneurs, Andy, you said there's often they're great at something and that's why they go into business. The fractional community are great at what they do, and so they're striking out on their own. And the benefit of the Voyager community is that it introduces you to people that can help round out your skill sets. You can network through that. You can connect with those people, and you can at least uncover what some of your drawbacks or some of your weak spots might be, and make a connection with someone that can actually do something for you. So I think that's one of the bits of power that Voyager can do for you, and that being a member of this community and chatting on office hours can help you do. Right? So thanks, Brian and Tom, for joining us on this chat. And yeah, there's so much there, and you need to keep all of your potential eyes open. I think that's part of the owl thing, right? You got to be on a swivel all the time. Yeah. When you're in that parliament of owls. Thanks, Tom.
I love that. I love it. A parliament of owls.
I think the term parliament gives owls a bad name.
It's pretty good though.
That's a fair argument.
I gotta go on mute and cough. You guys.
To follow on that, Dave, though, when we did the fractional story a couple of issues ago, the folks that I met in talking to folks on that story, and John really clued me in on this when I started on that project. A lot of these folks have been in the business community for 20, 25, 30 years, and are hugely well connected. I've gone back to 2 or 3 of the folks that were in that story on more than one occasion, John, you being one of them, that have helped me get in touch with other people for other questions I had or other editorial content we were working on. They're not only there to help you with your business challenge, whatever it might be at the time, but they're hugely well connected in the community and can really help in that regard as well.
Yeah. A lot of people, they don't, they sort of disqualify themselves, and maybe this is a Minnesota thing a little bit, but there's a little aw shucksness. You come out of business in 30 years and aw shucks, it's like, that's 30 years. That's 30 years of every year I call as a business MBA. In business, you failed a lot more than you've succeeded. That's learning all of that. But when you talk to people, when they come in and they want to go fractional and they're tired of looking, doing the resume thing, they're like, they sort of doubt their own value. Like, dude, you've got 30 years or 20 years or 15 years behind you. That's massively valuable. And so a big part of I think we're going as a society is people getting back in touch with what makes them great and being vulnerable and honest with themselves about that. The American corporate culture does not have a great history of saying, you're awesome, you're valuable a lot, we want to keep you, we're going to pay you up. I mean, when you think about it, like, most companies hardly keep up with inflation when it comes to raises. 70% of people, actively diss on their own business. Our American corporate culture it works really well for some and not well for others. And I think the chickens are coming home to roost on that. As told by the nonstop, get your asses back here into the office, and people saying, no, I'm valuable. I'm good. That's my value isn't in the hours I can grind away at your business. Let's look at it a different way. So that's something we're trying to fill. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and they said, we're just, they had a really bad experience with the company they worked with. And he's like, I wouldn't want to go back into the corporate world because, man, was that a toxic place. But he's like, but at the same time, where's the peeps? Where is everybody? And I'm like, it's in things like this. It's a new set of humanity. They're just not in, 110 Nicollet Tower. They're out in the world.
John, what's going to happen? So, I mean, this last year and a half's been kind of unprecedented in terms of employees moving around and new jobs and all that,
Yeah.
and then starting their own things with the fractional businesses and all of that. If we truly are headed toward a recession, or if there is some sort of correction coming, what's that going to do to the fractional market? Do you have any idea what to
Sure.
expect if
Yeah.
we do sort of have some correction coming?
You bet. I'll go back to some recent history. So yeah, if we do get a recession, when everything shut down from COVID, membership shot through the roof in Voyager. And you can kind of get it like I've been laid off by my company, or they shut down, or whatever that is. I got to find a way to do it, and nobody's hiring. So I'm going to go put myself out there. And that was a big moment for Voyager, for members. So if when things recede, right? So obviously cost control goes up to here. So hopefully we don't have a moment like that, like where we shut down as bad as we did, with COVID. But when things recede, companies are going to look at their bottom line and say, I need to, unless they're flat out going out of business, right? They're like, we got to grow, we got to upsize, we got to go up and to the right. We don't have the resources we did before. Get your fractional people in here. Because I can bring in Brian, or I can bring in Tom, at 60 grand a year, 70 grand a year, whatever it is, on a fractional, which is a third of full time. And that energizes those companies because now they got more money to work with, or they can shelter some cash. So I'm predicting that will be one of the effects. An interesting thing about, so that's if I'm getting out my crystal ball, that's what my crystal ball is telling me right now. Another interesting thing though about it is, oops, sorry, I'm going to turn my phone off. See, when you're on Tamiflu, your brain doesn't work as good as it should. Another interesting thing is that's different than a recession that really happened during COVID, is we really had a moment to really come to terms with our own mortality and prioritize what's important in our life. And that, recessions are going to come. A recession isn't going to come with, you might die. You might lose some people close to you. Millions of people are going to die. It's just not as mortal of a moment. And now that we've had that, the Pandora's box has been opened. People are resisting. Yeah, I maybe I didn't die from COVID, but I sure have learned the value of every day. As far as my work and my respect for myself and what I do for a living, I'm going to be very careful about that. So I think they're going to resist 60, 70, 8-hour, what we used to do, right? I think they're going to resist that from here on out. And I think they should. Look at the growth in the union movement right now. Look what's happening with unions that just has been quiet for, Starbucks is fighting with the union. Amazon, the workers are saying, this is a moment for me. I matter more.
Right.
And I'm going to reach for that. So that was a lot of crystal balling, wasn't it?
I like it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I got some Tamiflu going. So if it sounded good, great. If not, I blame the Tamiflu.
Seems reasonable.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, I agree in that a lot of things have changed quite significantly. And the great business owner, especially as they're looking to upsize and they're looking to move forward and brave and actually make some headway in this economy. And it doesn't really matter what the economy is, the people that can pivot quick enough and that can take the lesson, and that can move in the direction that they need to, are going to be set. Now, there's some business kinds that are a lot tougher than that. I work with a ton of manufacturing businesses. If you've got a line, and one of my clients has a 18-month lead because it needs to go through regulations to put all of the different parts and pieces together for the telecommunications equipment that they create, right? So that's a little bit of a tougher thing. But for this community, for the fractionals out there that are either deciding, what, I don't want to go into work every day, or I don't want to go into the office downtown and worry about this, because life is about more than going to the office, or folks that have just pivoted and this is their second act or their third act on their lives.
Yeah.
You get to choose where you want to go. You get to choose what you want to do. So I think it's pretty dang rosy for folks that have the ability to pivot.
Yeah, that's huge, Dave. That's a big one. And so, because it's not it can sound like it's anti-work. I don't want to go back to the way things were. I don't want to be underneath somebody else's thumb. But if you look at the numbers, and I don't know if you've published any stories on this, Andy, but if you look at productivity numbers, and if you look at, what's been happening in the remote world, and fractional is part of that, productivity, people are better for the companies they work for in this space. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like I don't want to go back and work for that client. Clients are awesome. So Dave, you're right. Those companies that are like, well, I don't have to have my thumb on people. If I can grow and do good and they're happy, and that's awesome for me. Does anybody ever follow Dan Price? Anybody know who Dan Price is? He's sort of he's a little bit of a messiah for this kind of stuff. Dan Price, I think it's called Gravity Payments is the name of it. Okay. And he's kind of a messiah for this. Like his minimum pay is $70,000 a year for his workers. So he's really high on happy workers.
I remember. Yeah.
Yep. Happy workers, well-balanced health, they do really well for the company, and the company can do really well for them. So I think the relationship isn't anti-corporate, pro-worker, almost that old union mentality. I think we're better when we work together than sort of when we're doing this.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, I actually, when you, the gravity payments, I came across something on that on LinkedIn the other day. I saw something about the $70,000 minimum. I don't know if I don't think we're going to see companies not have office space at all or anything like that, but
sure. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how much of this movement holds as things do slow down or recede or whatever. It'll be interesting to see a couple of years from now where we're at versus now. But it's definitely a movement for sure. I just finished a story. I freelanced it for another publication on a small town in Northwest Minnesota. It was a city government that had a position posted for a bookkeeper role, and they couldn't. They posted it under the traditional, need somebody in the office 40 hours a week role, and they couldn't fill it. It was open for months.
Yeah, and
so the city, and I don't think of cities or governments in most cases as the most fast moving and adopting of change. The city decided that it had to offer a flexible work situation. This city was able to draw an applicant from 45 minutes away across the border into North Dakota because they opened up they opened the job up to some flexible work hours. You can work from home, you can work whatever. And it's been a hire that worked out great for them. And it's to me, I think as important as what you were saying is just the ability to bring on folks with different talent that otherwise wouldn't be interested from 2 or 3 states or 2 or 3 cities or whatever away is also something that companies need to.
It's happening to Dave's point about where technology is. It's happening. I think a big thing that we have to watch for too is we look at the numbers and the technology and sort of the logistics of this. But if you look at the mood in America right now as it relates to work, there's the mood is totally different. There's a teacher shortage in Texas right now. There's not a teacher shortage in Texas. They have as many teachers that they've ever had with qualified teachers. There's a shortage of teachers who will work for that school system, for that pay, for what they are putting out in their contracts. Same thing for nursing. We don't have a shortage of nurses. We have a shortage of nurses who are like, yeah, I'm not going to work 80 hours for shit. That's not a shortage of staff. On the other side of the equation, right? Guess who else is tired of that? Employers. They are just pulling their hair out like, I don't want to have my thumb on people.
Right.
I don't want to have, it's just these old norms they're breaking, but it's very difficult. But, you get a Dan Price or somebody like that, who's like, they really, really get it. But employers are like, this is freaking exhausting. It's wearing me out. I want people to be happy too. I just don't know how yet. In this new normal, I don't know how to make that work.
That's interesting. point for the employers, because as an employer right now, and I have 23 folks that work for me, and we have an office, and we have no plans to get rid of the office. But what we have seen is it's a complete flip. People come into the office when they really need to focus. We're
Yeah.
not forcing people to stay in the office,
Right.
but when you come in and you need to collaborate or you need to connect, and that's why I think it's a mistake for businesses that also have a huge office space to just completely say, what, we're 100% virtual now. There's a
Mhm.
lot that does get lost in the ability to connect and to make like real collaboration happen. You need to have some in person for some jobs in order to make that work. So you can't go 100% one way or the other. It's going to be somewhere in the middle where people have more freedom, they have more ownership and more control of over their autonomy, but they also need to feel connected to the organization that they're working for.
Do you
So that's
think
what we
this? Do you think this 40, 50-hour week thing all anchored to kind of our industrial age, where you were a machine and you had to come in and you had a quota and you had to get so many washers off the line, and then that just somehow transferred its way over into professional work in the tech economy?
Yeah,
I'll have to ask Jason, our resident historian, on that.
Yeah,
because I'm curious about that. Why, right? Why, with so many people saying, why 40 hours? Why 2 hours in traffic a day?
Mm-hmm.
Why 45 minutes to talk about what's happening on last night on The Bachelorette? Why meetings that nobody's getting any value? Why are those part of the package? They shouldn't be, right? They don't make any sense.
Right.
I saw one study not that long ago that indicated that people, at least a significant percentage of people, were actually working more hours now, but they weren't bothered by doing that as much because they can do it from home.
Yeah.
They can set their own hours. They don't have to be in the car for an hour and a half a day going back and forth or whatever. And I thought that's that was, I think there's conflicting research out there right now, I think on that, but if you like the work you do, but you don't like spending an hour and a half in a car, it doesn't matter to me where you do your work. Just get it done.
You guys ever seen the movie Office Space?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Great movie. And the guy who gets hypnotized and has this ethereal moment, he's talking to the Bobs, and they're like trying to figure out, because they're consultants, they're going to chop staff. And like, he gets like, tell me what you're doing today. And he walks through it and it's all bullshit. And he goes, his conclusion was, on any given day, I probably only do about 15 minutes of work.
Yep.
And it's comedy, right? But certainly the work dynamic is changing.
I wouldn't say I've been missing work, Dave.
Yeah.
What's that?
Bob, I'm sorry. I wouldn't say I've been missing work, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've been missing work. It's a strong word. It's a strong word to use. Excuse me, I'm going to cough again.
No problem. So, Brian, Tom, any additional thoughts to add on to the conversation? Thanks guys for joining and for adding your connections.
Nothing at this point. John, thanks for the information you sent. That's very helpful. Appreciate it.
Oh, good. Where are you giving a talk, Tom? Where are you giving your talk? We can send people to it.
It is the 18th in the evening. I don't have the information right in front of me. It's being held at one of the Cargill facilities. Okay. But it's for a group called, I want to say like a group of Eagles or something. It's military veterans who are in job transition.
Oh, nice.
So I can definitely get all the specifics. But anyway, yeah, just a short.
18th of August or 18th of September?
18th of August next week.
Oh, got it. Good. All right.
But just once again, exposing other people to the fractional world, and maybe it could be an option for others coming out of the military as well.
Yeah, boy, that's a good idea. That talk about good skills, right?
Wow. But before I let everybody go, I do want to give a promo for next week, and on August 19th, next Friday, it's How Not to Fail in the workaholic trap of our past corporate lives. How on points from our conversation today is that? Hosted by Jenny Erickson of Act Thoughtful. So super
Jenny's
excited
great.
to have Jenny on with us, and that's going to be tremendous fun. So be sure to tune in for that one as well.
Jenny's great. She knows her stuff. She's wonderful. She gives a good presentation. I think she just moved recently from Minneapolis to Phoenix. So that's a good time. You know, at the end of summer, the beginning of fall, go south. It gets real nasty around here.
Exactly. Well, Andy, tell us how to keep up with you, how to connect, how to subscribe, how to submit.
Yes, absolutely. You can go to upsizemag.com/subscribe. Complimentary subscription available there. You can email me at tellijohn@upsizemag.com if you've got questions or thoughts or ideas. Would love to hear from you. And again, please subscribe, and it all starts there. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate having me on.
We'll have you back.
You know it. Yeah, I want to keep our fingers on the pulse, and nobody's quite as good at that as someone who's publishing and in charge of making sure that you're on the pulse. So tell us more, and we'll get you back in the next few months, Andy. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you. Anytime.
Sweet. Well, I think we should let John get back to sleep.
I'm going to go find more Tamiflu and Paxlovid or whatever. I don't know if I can drive yet or not. I feel dizzy, but I'll be all right.
Looks like if you need something, give me a holler. I can drop something off at your door. I'll use a 10 foot.
That's great. You're nearby too. So yeah. All right.
I was gonna say, it looks like everybody's at their cabin except for Andy and I.
We're heading up north on Sunday morning. So
the Minnesota thing.
Yep.
Very nice. I'm going to go take Tamiflu. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Everybody, thanks for joining us for office hours, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Andy, for joining and being our guest star.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, guys.
You too.
Bye.